are you?
Yeah, good. Listen, the Ireland selection is the buzz in all the papers today. The general consensus is that if anybody is carrying any sort of a knock, you don't play them into this game. But the other thing is that you've got to try and keep the sense of confidence that we have after the first game going. So it's a difficult enough balancing act from a selection perspective this week.
Yeah, it's difficult in a good way, I think, during the fact that a lot of people raise their hands, and especially in the back. So, getting obviously 13 people on the plane was proven very competitive. Now it's even got a lot more competitive considering 4 key players were unavailable last week, but their replacements did really, really well. So the opposition may not be as strong as Scotland, but they'll also be the home team, and it'll be a different, I suppose, atmosphere in the stadium. So you need to get selection bang on.
If Joey Carbery is fit, does he automatically get picked ahead of Jack Carty? Is that still the pecking order, irrespective of how well Carty played last week?
I think so. I would think so, yeah. In the fact that Jack Carty it was the biggest pressurised game of his career, and it's a lot of time to come in and have an impact, but also the fact that if Scotland had found their way back into the game, a lot of fingers pointed at Jack, and that's what happens when you come in at 10. But I thought he added to the team. I thought he was sharp. His decision making was instinctive, and he did really well. But I think if Ireland, which we all know, want to go deep into this competition, if they do that, I think they feel like that they have a real impact sub in Joey Carbery, a real impact sub.
Okay. The other thing is the makeup of the front row is a question, because we saw Rory Best play the full 80 minutes at his age. Do you automatically put him back out this week just to make sure that there is leadership on the team?
No, I wouldn't think the leadership will come into it at all. I think there's many a capable leader in that group, but I would think his plan will definitely have to be revised. I would say if you look at it statistically over the last 10 years, how many times has he played 80 minutes? And obviously his next big focus is the quarter-final, so I would think there would be an individual plan made for him in terms of probably he would be looking at maybe around 180 minutes before playing the Springboks, but he's got 80 now, so he probably in the next 3 games he probably only needs maybe complete week off or reboost week, and play 60, play 30 perhaps.
Ron, that's interesting. Is it specifically the number of minutes, or is it are there other markers about high intensity?
Yeah, of course there are an awful lot more markers, and some people feel better playing, kind of 3 full games in 1 week completely off and then go again. But the great thing about it is that you have an opportunity to find form like that and find your rhythm like that. But you look at it in the case of Johnny, he has a great capacity to probably play cold and have a big impact on games, coming in with little training minutes or even match minutes and getting his performance to the required levels. But everyone is very different, and there are different markers, and that's where I think having a good understanding from your coaches about what certain aspects make players tick, that's hugely important.
Yeah, Sexton is obviously the main concern at the minute. We'd obviously love to see Robbie Henshaw get some game time under his belt before the South Africa game as well. But if you're Ireland and you're looking at Johnny Sexton getting some treatment on a groin or whatever it was specifically at the weekend, are you thinking, right, that's him wrapped up in cotton wool, we'll give him 15 minutes in one of the games and we'll keep him now for the game against South Africa?
No, I wouldn't think so. I'd know Johnny as I do. I think he'll want to play and he'll want to make sure that he's 100% for South Africa. I think he got a new knock or a new twinge against Scotland. I don't think it was anything from previous medical history. That can happen a lot of times in terms of around your adductors, your groins, your quads. Strains with kicking a ball, but if it's a mild strain, it's not of concern. If it's a deep muscular issue, it can be very upsetting for the mind. So maybe Johnny felt a twinge, or maybe he felt more of a twinge, and he could be concerned about it. If he's concerned, then it's better, I think, that he doesn't go anywhere near the pitch.
Okay, so you just play that by ear and let it come back, and whenever it's ready you get him back on the field to give him some opportunity to get sharp ahead of the South Africa game.
Yeah, well, exactly, because you can get all the scans and all these kind of opinions, but also you have to give feedback about how your body is feeling, and sometimes some elements are missed in scans. Sometimes you don't get a full picture. So that's where I think, the Irish medical team is very settled too. They've a really good physical therapist. Dave Revens, he's been at it for I'd say nearly 20 years now. So he really, I think, gets into that and unties a lot of knots. And it could be as basic as that, Jared. It mightn't be anything complicated at all within Johnny's body.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we're going to need Johnny Sexton against Japan, so maybe this isn't a game where you're rushing back. Or on the other hand, maybe this is the last game that we feel like we will need Johnny Sexton before the quarterfinals, so you get him back out there. What is the gut instinct on that?
I would go with your latter. I think I wouldn't underestimate the home team. There's always one kind of bizarre result in sport, especially in a World Cup, and Japan didn't show anything in their first game, but they did find form, obviously, in a World Cup out of nowhere 4 years ago in their last campaign. So you just have to. The other two threats aren't anywhere near as live as Japan. So in terms of dealing what's in front of you, I think Japan would be the difficult game, and then the other two aren't difficult in my mind.
Okay, so we were kind of all expecting that there'd be a significant number of changes, that you wouldn't risk Bundy Aki and you wouldn't risk Peter Marty, even though they're grand to play, just because, maybe that's the completely wrong attitude, though. The two lads obviously had a quite significant rest.
Yeah, I would think, Jared, there's 4 shadow teams is how I'd look upon it, in terms of your 4 23s kind of jigsawed or mapped out before the competition. This is what ideally a quarter-final preparation would look like. And I would say, as you said, there's a few moving pieces in the fact that Rory Best obviously has probably plus 30 minutes too many in his column. In Bundy Aki, Peter O'Mahony, then Johnny's case, they need more time. But I would say that they have a fair idea exactly who's playing and why. If you understand me in terms of the 4 games. Yes. So, I think they wouldn't have a wait-and-see approach or potentially this, but I would say that this is all calculated in the fact that they know they're 423s a long time out. It will be discussed between the assistant coaches and Joe on a daily basis in terms of who's tracking well. And, for example, Chris Farrell all of a sudden will come up for extra discussion because of how good he was at the weekend. And that's what happens in live sport, that people take their opportunities. Some people take them a lot more. And, I watched the game back again, and Farrell was very, very good in a lot of aspects. So his name, as long as he played like that, Henshaw is ahead of him. But current form too, you have to take into account. You can't have guys mind and niggles if you're looking at winning this competition. Yeah, Robbie Henshaw needs to be able to demonstrate that he can sprint full out and not have any negative connotations for his hamstring. Whereas we've seen Chris Farrell at full pelt, and it's quite the sight. Yeah, well, and also, sure, I wouldn't say sprint in the first game. Can he react to it, and can he go again 3 days later and go again hard for that 80 minutes? Then you don't have a hamstring issue. You don't know anything from your first, run out, even at full intensity with a hamstring injury. Hamstrings are tricky in the fact that they feel good, and then all of a sudden, bang, but you've lost your 6 weeks. Yeah. So you wouldn't be surprised then to see Sexton start and to see Rory Best start? No, I wouldn't at all, no. I think their plan is that they want to have everyone firing at the peak of their abilities ever since the kind of World Cup plan came. So for quarter-final South Africa, how do I have my cattle performing to the best of their ability? And I think that's where match planning comes into it. Yeah. I wouldn't be a surprise at all. Okay. Ronan, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Sure, you're James. Thank you. See you. Ronan O'Gara giving us some early thoughts there on what the team is going to be.